Welcome. In this video, I'm going to share with you how specifically you can stop waking up at 3 a.m. in perimenopause and start sleeping through the night, a good healthy 7 to 9 hours without all this disruption and restless sleep after that 2 or 3 a.m. infamous wake up. In the last 10 years of practicing natural medicine, I'm a naturopathic doctor, I'm a doctor of classical Chinese medicine. I've worked with well over 1,000 women, and many of them navigating perimenopause. Sleep is one of the most painful issues that gets people to act, that brings them in the office. So it's something I've gotten a lot of experience working with over the years. And there are a few key things that I've found really make a difference and help to restore healthy sleep. We look at like the work of this longevity expert, Brian Johnson, this famous fellow who's spending millions upon millions, like accumulating all of the longevity research that we have in modern times. And he says sleep, they've found, is the number one driver of longevity, which is like how healthy we are as we get older, as we age. We get this quality of life, we get quality of health. We all want this, right? And now, early perimenopause, moving through perimenopause is kind of the perfect time to recalibrate, to bring sleep back into rhythm so that all of the downstream things that can happen when our sleep's disrupted don't happen to you. So specifically in this video, I want to share with you the 4 big reasons why your sleep gets disrupted in perimenopause, so you actually know what's happening. That way we can be discerning and know what will help us, right? I want to share with you the 4 reasons why. Also, what are the downstream consequences? Because you may be struggling with a lot of them right now and thinking they're somehow unrelated or something else to do with your hormones. But sleep's one of those things, if we kind of like pull that thread, sometimes it will unravel all of these other issues. It's definitely a root cause driver of a lot of downstream things. So we'll talk about those. And then I'm going to share with you my specific go-to remedies. So out there in the world, you're trying to do things naturally. You might have tried a lot of things and seen, that doesn't work. This doesn't work. What can I try? What should I try? Without just relying on supplement marketing, right? Like, marketing can make anything look good. So what are the go-to remedies that have evidence behind them, that work in practice specifically with women navigating perimenopause? I'm going to share those with you at the very end. A resource that you can download that actually has names of supplements, brands you can trust, typical dosing if you decide to explore some of these things. So stay tuned for that. So let's dive in. First and foremost, the 4 reasons, most common reasons why the sleep has become broken, specifically at that 2, 3 a.m. window. So the 4 common reasons why sleep gets disrupted in perimenopause, we start at the top here. As estrogen levels start to decline, and this is typically mid to late 40s through mid 50s, where we see big dips in estrogen levels. Everybody's genetics are a little bit different, but that's kind of most classic. As estrogen levels come down, it affects the serotonin in your gut, which downstream affects the amount of melatonin that you produce. So if we see on average, women moving through perimenopause into menopause have less melatonin. Now, the interesting thing about this, I separated the 4 reasons out as what's very specific to perimenopause versus these 3 other causes that can actually be going on for years before perimenopause comes about. And sometimes they're more indicative of other hormonal disruptions, not necessarily the decline of hormone production in the ovaries themselves. Another thing that's interesting here is that melatonin, primarily for sleep, is what gets us to fall asleep. But for staying asleep, there are other factors that we want to think about where these 3 that we actually have a lot more control over, these 3 matter more. So if you're able to fall asleep, but you're waking in the middle of the night, this might not be the most pressing thing that's causing your disruption in your sleep, which might be why you've tried melatonin and it doesn't really help. Maybe if you take a big whopping dose, you feel like you can stay asleep, kind of. If that's you, this is why that's not necessarily working. But diving into these other 3, we'll start here. Moving through perimenopause, even starting in late 30s and then moving forward, we become a lot more sensitive to the effects of stress. And one of the hormones that we see dip first in that age range, that time frame, is progesterone. It's kind of antagonistic with stress hormone. If we have a lot of stress, we have less progesterone naturally because they come from the same building blocks. So as progesterone levels decline, either because the ovaries are making less or just because we're more sensitive to stress at this time, our ability to calm our brain decreases. Progesterone stimulates these receptors in our brain called GABA receptors. These are the same receptors that most anti-anxiety meds target. So, this ability to get wound up, how do we calm ourselves back down? GABA is one of those pathways that does it. And if we don't have enough stimulation coming into that pathway, we are less calm. So now this is why sleep gets restless. Like you're like, I woke up, but now I can't like really go back to sleep. And or I feel really like I'm a light sleeper, a little noise, and then I'm waking up. This can be why. Next reason here, I kind of alluded to it already, but as we become more sensitive to stress hormone, If we're not really checking the stress hormone, specifically cortisol, in the day, we can get really funky patterns. It's supposed to follow a very specific rhythm throughout the day where it's higher in the morning, comes down, and is low by the evening. But for some women, this actually gets reversed low in the morning, higher in the evening. So it might be like, in this case, "Oh, I'm so tired, I can't get out of bed in the morning. But then I'm tired all day and I come to go to sleep and then I'm wired. I'm wide awake." This is an example of an imbalance in stress hormone. Also, for some women, it can be that where we want that spike of our stress hormone to happen 7 a.m., 8 a.m., whenever it is that you typically routinely want to wake up. That's when we want that big hormone spike to happen. So it makes us feel alive, awake, alert. And for some women, that happens in the middle of the night. So all of a sudden, boom, I get this big spike of stress hormone and it's 2 or 3 a.m. And you're like, why am I awake? I have absolutely no idea why I'm awake. This is definitely one of those reasons why. And then finally, fourth reason here, imbalances in blood sugar. We don't always think about this. If you think about sleep is the time when you're fasting the most, you have the longest stretch of time where you're not eating something, right? And in our body, the brain can run on only one fuel. Can't run on fat, can't run on protein. It can only run on sugar. So if we have imbalances in the way our blood sugar stabilizes itself throughout the day and night, we can get weird like spikes. If our blood sugar starts to dip, the way that your body spikes the sugar back up, it pulls it out of the liver, it pulls it out of the muscles by using adrenaline, by using stress hormone, by using this big surge of adrenaline. All of a sudden, you feel awake, alert, and you're maybe like a little bit jittery. This is often indicative of some imbalances in blood sugar. Now, from here, I want to share with you some of the downstream things to look for that would let us know, ooh, is this sleep causing other dominoes to fall, other things to happen? Let's dive into that next. Downstream effects of lack of sleep. Did you know that if you lose sleep for 17 hours, it does the equivalent to your brain of having a blood alcohol level of 0.05%, which is like almost the legal limit. It definitely affects our ability to think logically and rationally. And this is because the area of the brain that does our logic, our reasoning, focuses on our values. We're able to really think clearly and control impulses, all is the front part of our brain. And when we are in a state of chronic sleep debt or deprivation, when we're getting less than that ideal 7 to 9 hours per night, you might think having less is normal and healthy, but truly we need a little bit more rest. We do need those hours. When we're in a chronic state of sleep debt, that frontal part of the brain fires less. It's less online. And where we default to is the more emotional centers of the brain a little bit further back. And this is why when we miss sleep, we can often feel more anxious, more easily triggered. Maybe you have like a little bit more indecision in the day, or you're noticing brain fog and forgetfulness, and that maybe you're making choices around food or snacking or things like this that feel good in the moment, but are also a bit impulsive and it's hard for you to control those. I want you to know that all of that can actually be chemical. It's not necessarily lack of willpower or that you have changed somehow, but truly it can be chemical. It can be coming from your brain, coming from this interplay of your hormones in your brain. So I want you to know that just so that you have some confidence moving forward with your health, that as you improve your sleep, I would watch for these other things and expect that they're also going to improve alongside. So what do we do about it? What are the go-tos? What are the things we can trust? Let's talk lifestyle, and let's also talk supplements, things that you can take. And then I wanted to weave in a little bit of Chinese medicine meridian theory because it holds up. It's held up for thousands of years. It works super well. So I have a little trick I'm going to share with you that's specific to meridian therapy. Lifestyle piece. I would challenge you to make your room super dark, no lights, blackout shades, whatever you got to do, no lights. Make it really quiet. And every night for a week, focus on having a good balanced dinner, which means protein, the size and thickness of your palm, a handful of veggies, and about thumb size of fat or oil added to it. So a nice healthy balance of food. When we get into things that are maybe a little carb heavy, maybe just like pasta and we don't put a lot of protein with it, or we get into snacks after dinner like sweets and things where it's mostly just carbohydrates and fat, this will cause our blood sugar to spike really high. And the way the body responds is cranking out a bunch of insulin, and then it brings that blood sugar down pretty sharply. It doesn't give us anything to stabilize blood sugar for the long haul. That's what protein does. That's what the fiber in your veggies do. That's what a good healthy amount of fat does. It helps your blood sugar stay in this Goldilocks zone for a longer period of time. So I would challenge you every day for a week, really play with these variables and see how it improves your sleep. With dinner, I would also in this week challenge you to forego the glass of wine. All of these alcohols that we get into, maybe a little bit habitually, again, maybe impulsively, they raise histamine level, which is excitatory. It makes us excited. So we think about histamine, oh, stuffy nose, allergies, runny eyes, but it's also a neurotransmitter. It's a chemical that affects your brain. So it makes you excited, just like stress hormone does. And they go hand in hand. So really just challenge, like, what would it look like for a week to just go without and see what happens to your sleep? Then you see for yourself and you know for yourself. It's often 80% of the heavy lifting when we're making changes naturally comes from a lifestyle, not from the supplements, which is why I mentioned it first. But then in the realm of supplements, certainly we want to use these things to get out of suffering, that we can optimize our health. We get back to sleeping with the idea that when we do a little bit of root level healing downstream, it makes it to where we don't need these things forever. But that's a little bit beside the scope of this video today. So I just want to give you the things that you can do to give yourself some relief. And for this, I really do love the stack of supplements put forward by Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a Stanford professor of neuroscience and found that a few core nutraceuticals or nutritional supplements really hit the mark for helping people sleep more consistently through the night. And I choose them because they actually address all of those four key mechanisms in perimenopause specifically. So for women navigating this time, this is a good stack. Number one is magnesium threonate. Other magnesiums can definitely work if you have bisglycinate. That's another one that's really calming in the evening, common to take. I pick threonate specifically because it's the only form of magnesium that can cross the blood-brain barrier and actually get into the brain, help relax the tissues there. So it's a little bit more specific. If you have other forms, those work as well. Supplement number two is something called L-theanine. It's an amino acid that the body uses. It helps to raise our GABA levels. So when we talk about lower levels of GABA stimulation in this time, L-theanine specifically helps to address that. So does the next supplement called apigenin, which is an anti-inflammatory flavonoid compound. It comes from plants like celery and chamomile, and it is anti-inflammatory to the brain, so it helps take down this like a little bit of extra excitability in the brain. So if there is high stress hormone or this imbalance with GABA, it helps to just take down that fast-firing irritability in the brain and support both of those pathways. And then the last one, the fourth one that some people might add only if they have troubles specifically with blood sugar. So if you don't have imbalances in your blood sugar, you don't get hangry, you're not hungry like really often, or like right after dinner, you're not craving snacks right away. Maybe this doesn't apply to you, but for people who have a little bit more hard time with blood sugar, a supplement called inositol can be really supportive. Now, for all these supplements, they come in a variety of forms. Some of them come as powders that you could just kind of mix together, have a little single drink before bed to just lower pill count, make things easy to take. But I did want to mention to you, I do have a resource I put together that shares with you specifically how I dose these things in practice, brands that you can trust. That's called the Med-Free Perimenopause Guide. If you want this, it has a summary of everything I went over in here, but then also those specifics about how we take these things, how we can make them work into our life. I'm going to put a link for that in the description field below. Feel free to grab yourself a copy, and then that way you don't have to take notes and guess. All right. Now, the final piece, the meridian therapy. For this, we want to use a point that's just right on the bottom of the foot. So on the sole of your foot, kind of like right towards the middle, like right under the ball, there's a place that your thumbs will just naturally want to rest. If you have a little bit of magnesium lotion or oil or magnesium spray, put that on the bottoms of your feet and then just massage that point right before bed. Specifically, this point is used in Chinese medicine to bring us out of our head. If you find, I can't turn my mind off, my thoughts are just racing, this is a really good one for you. And it helps us feel really anchored, settled, and it draws the energy down in the body. Like all this mental, frenetic energy helps draw it down in the body. So this one I would add for anyone. It's a nice, lovely form of self-care, super easy to do. You can spend as little or as long as you like doing it. But do give these things a try. Again, all of these things are detailed for you in the Med-Free Perimenopause Guide. If you want to download your copy, I'll put a link in the description field below. Enjoy it. If you find these helpful, please let me know in the comments below. I love to hear about it. I love to hear back from you. And may you sleep well tonight.